This is a short presentation just to explain one of the aspects of the school, something that we thought would be important to have in this school. This is a summer school. There's going to be a lot of theory. There's going to be a lot of concepts being explained. And we also wanted to have something a little bit more practical, so you could also experiment with some ideas, experiment with some concepts. So this is what this is going to be about. So this hackathon idea. So what is this hackathon thing all about? Today, it was already pretty intense. I'm sure that you already felt that, although we were only talking for 4 hours and a half, this has been super intense. The following days, the next 3 days, are going to be even more intense because we're going to have 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and then we're going to have an extra talk after all these hours. So it's going to be something which I think is interesting because you're going to be receiving all this information about the future, about computing. And they're being presented by people who are actually inventing this, right? So they're making it possible for us, for some of us which are more on the user side, to use this future of computing. And also, the talks that you'll be seeing are also about people using some of these future technologies to solve real-world problems, or studying the implications of these new technologies. We just barely spoke about that, like what's the impact of these things in society. And all these things are happening, and we're listening to all these people inventing the future, right? So we know this is going to be an awesome opportunity for learning. But what we want to do is use this school as a way of motivating you to also become actors in this process of creating the future of computing. So how do we do that? We're going to do this using the hackathon strategy. Most of you already participate in some sort of hackathon. So we're going to try to do something of that kind. So the idea is that as you listen to these talks, you'll probably will start having some ideas about things you wanted to do if you had that type of computation available. Or you're going to see something that relates to some research that you're already doing. So, this is an interesting thing. It connects to a problem that I've been studying in the past, or that I'm studying now. So if, and because this is so complex, we heard today Sadaf explain us that her team is composed by many people. There's the need for many different types of skills. So maybe some of these problems, you can start thinking about those. If you organize yourselves as teams, so we're going to ask you to organize as a team, 3, 4, 5 people. We don't know exactly how many people are the best number. So we're going to also have to figure that out together. But the idea is to think about something, explore an idea. So maybe a hackathon is not really a good name. It should be more of an ideathon. So we're not going to have to build anything necessarily, but think about something as deeply as possible. And sometimes when you do this sort of brainstorming process, really good ideas come out, and maybe those ideas can be the beginning of a new project. And ultimately, that's what we want to do with this school, is have some interesting ideas, some interesting projects starting now. So, what can these ideas be? We don't know. It can be anything. What we want is really, really crazy, speculative, big ideas coming out. I mean, even if they look impossible, that's fine, at least for now. So, but what we want is that even if they're impossible now, from what you'll be learning during this summer school, maybe they'll become possible in the near future. Okay? So these ideas should be technically grounded, so what we call technically grounded ideas, or technically grounded speculation. Ideally, you don't want to think about projects that are related with building the next app to sell pizzas. You want to think about something that has real impact in the world, as Sadaf was today talking, right? It's really big problems, like forecasting the weather, or understanding climate changes. So we want to hear you, or we want to hear ideas about really big problems. We also, even if there's not an idea about a specific project, something you want to do, you can start thinking about impacts, or the impacts that these new technologies will bring to the world. Even if you're not creating a project, as an idea, something totally original, you can start thinking about things like, for example, energy consumption. What are these machines? How much energy will these machines use? This is something important to the world. So starting understanding these implications of these new technologies. And we would really like you to see this sort of activity as a space for experimentation. Experimenting with crazy ideas with other people, brainstorming. And above all, these ideas should also be important for you, to you, in terms of what are your thinking about your next steps in your career. So something that is related with an area that you've been studying or working on, and you sort of mix that field, that area expertise that you have, or that area that you want to research, with things that you're going to start hearing about during these next 3 days. So here's a few examples. These are just examples, and I don't want to constrain you in any way. We really don't want you to constrain you in any way. But these are things that, as I was writing this presentation, if I were a participant of the school, given my background, or given background of people that I know, what would I like to kind of explore? So for example, I've done some work in the area of machine learning. So for me, what's interesting about this school, as a sort of student of this school, is how can I use these new machines to train my machine learning algorithms? Or how can I even start imagining totally different ways of doing machine learning if I had these sort of machines? And it's just like very open. I don't really know. I'm going to start listening about some new technologies the next 3 days, because believe me, I know less than you about these things, about this future of computing. So I'm also learning. So these will be something that, these ideas, thinking about machine learning in the context of quantum computing, this will be interesting for me, for example. Okay? But it could be other things. It could be, let's suppose that you have some background on something very specific like genetics. There may be a connection between genetics and molecular computing. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just making this up. But this is the type of things that we're expecting to start hearing from you. Or some big problem that you care about, like global warming. It's a huge problem. Or we're talking about this technology, and Sadaf didn't talk about this too much today, but a machine like the Peace Danes burns so much energy, so much energy. So there's a cost just in energy. Let's start thinking about those costs. They're hidden, but they exist. What is the implication of having machines that burn so much energy? Or there are ethical issues, and we talked a little bit about that. If we have all these machines, can we start suddenly accessing everybody's data and doing it in an ethical way? So what is important is that you intersect your interests with things that you'll be learning about during this summer school. And again, you can think of radically new ways of performing some sort of computation. And if you had those, how would you change the things that you're doing now? You can, for example, think about, there's a technical blocker that some of the speakers will be talking about. They'll be talking about models which are very advanced, but they're still technical blockers or scientific blockers. So maybe you have an idea about how to surpass that blocker. You're a smart guy from physics. Maybe you'll see, oh, I actually know how to start working on this field. This is something different. I've heard about this 10 years ago, and this may be relevant for this discussion right now, right? So I'm sure that most of you, or at least lots of you, have something in your background that can be used as a step in this process of building the future of computing. So, more things. There's also practicalities. Maybe you're interested in the practical aspects of putting a computer out there, a computer like this. There are practical aspects. Like, for example, suppose, and again, I'm just making this up because this is really an open field. Suppose that for building one of these sort of computers, you have to mine for some rare mineral. And this mineral only exists in one country in the world. What does that mean in terms of political implications? You can start thinking about those things. Or, for example, now that we have these computers, how are we going to interact with these computers? How are you going to code these computers? What does that mean in terms of teaching computer science? All these are very open questions. So, what do you have to do? Very simple. So the output of this activity is one poster. Papers and pens are provided by us, so that's good. So everything is free here. It's like the GNU projects. You're going to have access to paper, access to pens and pencils, and that's the output. We only want that. So the focus will be on developing an idea. We don't care about very fancy presentations. That's not the point. We don't care about, you know, all these interesting graphics. It's not the point. What we care is about imagination and being speculative. We want you to speculate, but again, technically grounded speculation. So we'll have some time to prepare this, and it's not a lot, but we think it's enough because it's going to start after you listen to all the seminars, and then we're going to have basically Friday morning to prepare the presentation, although we think the project should start a little bit early. Thursday evening, after the last talk, you can start developing your ideas, you can start brainstorming, you can go out at night here. Porto is, you know, it's a nice city for going out at night, have a few beers, or non-alcoholic drinks, or some drink that you would like, start brainstorming, and then Friday morning, we expect you to develop and actually write that idea on a poster. And then this kind of ends by your team, presenting this to a panel whose goal is to provide you feedback. There's no evaluation, there's no competition involved here. The point is just have other people listen to your presentation and give you feedback about, or ask you questions about your ideas, so you can develop the ideas a little bit further. So again, this is not a competition. There are no rankings. There are no better versus worse. None of that. And this is just a way of creating an environment for you to come up with ideas, maybe meet some people in the process, maybe have some of the speakers give you feedback on something specific. So just that. Be open-minded about this. So the jury will provide some feedback. It will provide ideas for improvements. May connect you to some people who are doing research in the thing that you're interested in. So it's also a good opportunity for establishing here the beginning of a network. And we hope that all the jury will help you guide your next steps in this project. So if all works well, our ideal scenario for us would be after this hackathon, you'd have ideas for a concrete project, or at least to start thinking more specifically about a project. Some of you are master students or PhD students or are undergrads. Maybe out of this discussion, there's an idea that may become an interesting topic of research for your masters or PhDs. But above all, what we want is to start a little community here among you, to grow that community, and maybe next year we'll come back with lots of more knowledge and lots of more ideas. So that's kind of the output that we really want, is to start this community. Okay, so I'm actually not going to go through all this. I'm just going to very quickly summarize what we see as potential projects so that it opens up a little bit more the scope of your exploration. But I'm going to send this presentation by email so that you guys can follow later. But at a very high level, we see 5 types of projects. And there's probably more because you guys are going to think about things we haven't thought before. So here's one type of project that we expect to see. Things like you hear something about a certain future of computing technology, and you see, here's a blocker for this thing to be real or to become widely available. I think this is a good opportunity. This is something that I would like to work on. So that's type number 1. Type number 2 is you assume that certain form of computation becomes reality. Quantum computers everywhere in our tables, or some very advanced molecular way of programming computers. And you assume that that exists. What application would you do of that? What problem would you solve? And why would that be a solution? So type 3, exploring a business opportunity. So Clara mentioned that UP Tech is also responsible for fostering the development of startups. So just think like a startup. if all these things are coming up, what would be a good startup or a good business to start now? There may be things that right now are not big, but they will become providers for the future of computing. So we want to start that business now because you'll become a provider for something. Type number 4, the idea here is to just think about the implications of these new machines or these new methods of computation as they come. What are the implications in terms of society, ethics, political, right? And the other type that we kind of foresee as very interesting, and again, this is not limiting, there may be other things we haven't thought about, is, okay, so now we have all these new computers, we're going to have to teach people how to build them and how to use them. How will education change? How will universities have to change to prepare people, prepare human resources for all these new computers, right? So these are just 5 types of projects. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly. Okay, so type 6 can be anything, basically. Just surprise us. And be bold, think big. There's that typical motivational sentence, go big or go home, right? So that's what we want, go big. We'll go really big. And make this an opportunity to receive feedback from the speakers, from the jury, from people who will bring to kind of give you feedback. Even venture capitalists. We'll have venture capitalists here to give you feedback, okay? And to build a network. So a lot of you don't know each other. Some already know each other because you're coming from the same university or the same company. Use this as a way to build a network. So teams, just very quickly, we're going to ask you to build teams from 3 to 5 participants. You can have a team of specialists if that's what you wish. You can have a teams of, with diverse background, if that's what you wish. It's your choice. We're not going to intervene on that. We just think that teams from 3 to 5 are ideal just because of logistics. Okay, 3 to 5. Again, use this opportunity to just make connections. The way that this is going to work, by the way, just start by introducing yourself to someone next to you. You can do that. Hi. Look around. Come on, don't be shy. Hi, Fernando. Nice to meet you. It's good that you're here. We've talked already. I already know you. Yeah. Come on. Hi.
Leon.
What's your name?
Leon.
Leon.
It's hidden on the other side.
Okay, I'm Luís.
Also hidden on the other side.
Yeah,
Luis, nice to meet you, man.
Okay. Okay, this is good because you're going to have to make teams of 3 to 5 people. And if you make connections with people we already know, if you build a team with people you already know, you're missing the opportunity to meet other people. So just try to optimize for that because I think that's also important. So we need to have teams by Wednesday, end of the day. So you have about 2 days, 48 hours to build a team. And the way this is going to work is very organic. We're going to just put a whiteboard somewhere there or outside with labels, team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, team 5. There's a certain number. And you just put your name there. And in the end, we'll know where you've been. Like you are going to opt in a team. So you're not going to decide anything. You just opt in. So you have to talk with people that are already there. Maybe brainstorm a little bit. You can remove your name from one team and move to another team. That's fine. That's fine. But by the end of the day, Wednesday, things should be more or less stable because you're going to start working on Thursday, okay? More or less stable. So, more stuff. Okay, and remember, this is, don't overthink this. Just build a team and see what happens. This is not a competition. Again, I keep insisting on this. There's no prize. Okay, we're not going to give any prize, and there's no rankings. It's just get to know people around you. This is going to start Tuesday, so the day 4, after all the seminars, at around 7:30. Heitor, who's there, is going to kind of open the event or the hackathon by giving an inspirational talk, I hope. Yeah, yeah, and maybe more, and maybe more, and maybe more. then actually it has already started because you're already connecting with people to start a team, so that's good. You will probably already have a few ideas in mind, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So I think it's reasonable to assume that you've thought a little bit about this and you have a few ideas about this already. And one thing that we ask all the speakers is to start giving you hints. Okay, so during these presentations, there's going to be a few hints. And this is also a way to make sure that you are really paying attention to the presentations. Okay? No, but the idea here is that there's going to be hints about challenges. And then this will end Friday at 12:30, so right before lunchtime. This gives you about 6 to 8 hours of work. It's not a lot, but because you're starting in the previous day, you can brainstorm, go out, have beers, and then maybe have a few ideas, and then in the morning you'll just write those ideas on paper. Again, focus on the idea, and this is basically it. There's going to be a few rooms here in the Faculdade de Belas Artes, here in the Fine Arts School, for you to work. So there's going to be an open room just for you to do your thing. You don't have to be here. You can actually not. You don't have to be here at the university, the faculty, at the school. You can go to a coffee shop if you want. That's fine. The only thing that we need is at 12:30 on Friday, you're gonna just leave your paper in this table. Okay, that's it. Huh? There's space around. You can stay. There's gonna be space here in the school. You can work in the gardens. There's gonna be rooms for that. Clara will give you details on that, but there's room for you to work. But 12:30, papers here. That's it. That's the end of your project, and we're going to have a few people here looking at your project so that then we can ask you questions or try to give you hints or try to give you some interesting feedback about your project, and that's it. So then, starting on 2 p.m. on Friday, we will have the jury here, and we're going to have a conversation with you. So for 5 minutes, you present the idea, and then the jury for 10 minutes will give you other ideas, will give you feedback, will try to motivate you to go further. So that's basically the plan. And I think that's it. That's it. So, there's another thing. We're going to have some people specialized in giving you extra ideas. So Friday morning, while you're working, there's going to be a few people just walking around asking you questions, just to kind of motivate you for even further, try to find inconsistencies, asking you questions. Okay? So there's going to be what we call instigators. And I think that's basically it. As we go along, you'll see how this works. This is supposed to be simple, so this is too many instructions for something which we hope to be very simple. But the basic idea is find a team, think about something that connects with your interests, start brainstorming, try to solve a problem, try to come up with a good project, and just present that project. Does this make sense? I hope so, yeah? Simple, right? Yeah, okay. So next steps, find teams, start thinking about these things, ask me questions. You can ask me now if you have any doubt, and that's basically it, so that I'm not taking more than 25 minutes, and we still have 1 hour till the beginning of the game, so I think this went pretty well. Questions? Nobody's stressing out with this? No competition? Is that clear? Okay. Look, what is the goal of all this? Yeah. There will be cake. There's going to be food also during the Friday morning, so that you guys are not low on sugar. We want you high on sugar. Okay, so start thinking about ideas, start thinking about building teams. If you have any doubts, let us know. There's going to be a whiteboard outside with labels Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4, Team 5, and that's basically it. There's a question, yeah.
Is there a participant list where people in front and background,
No. But it's a good question, so no. But your job is to start talking with people and trying to connect with people. We don't have that. We could actually get that too, but the idea of having so many breaks is exactly that one. Okay, again, it's not because we're Portuguese, it's because we want you to network.